Committee meeting underway here. There are 4 of us here, so we have a quorum. I don't see that we're going to have anyone online tonight, so that we don't have to go through that BS of calling and count and all of this stuff. Correct, Keith?
Carl, I love your candor.
All right.
I love it.
All right. The first thing I'd like to do tonight is revote the solid waste budget that we voted last week. The change in it is a reduction of $9,500 for reducing the amount that they're budgeting for so-called brush chipping at the transfer station. I assume, was this a selectman recommended?
It was. We talked about it with, it was on my list of additional cuts to get to 3%. I spoke to the streets and parks superintendent about it to see how well it's taken advantage of. Basically, what's happened is in the past, the public works employees have been offered overtime to go to the transfer station on Saturday to chip whatever brush has been brought in. We've had a very challenging time trying to find employees willing to work voluntary overtime. And oftentimes the streets and parks employees just go up during the week and chip it during the regular work week. So we decided to just eliminate the Saturday overtime and just have it done during street and parks regular work.
Anybody have any questions on the $9,500 reduction? Motion, please.
I will recommend, the Finance Committee recommend favorable action on the revised version of the fiscal 25 solid waste budget with personal services in the amount of $267,906, other expenditures $544,025, for an overall total of $811,931.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 400 in favor of recommending the reduction. Next thing I'd like to do is the review of the fire department budget. Mark, you want to move up to the table here? The fire department budget, I did some review. I sent an email to Mark for his comments and answers to some of my questions. One of the things that I was interested in was the thing that I always do is a head count for the department. Mark was good enough to send us this department overview that I think I just handed out to everybody. Do you have that? Yeah. Okay. So that the staffing is the chief, the deputy chief, and 1 administrative assistant, 4 captains, and 20 firefighters. So that in effect, they're a department of 26 firefighting people, plus the administrative assistant. As you remember, town meeting last year authorized the hiring of 4 additional firefighters to get us to that 20 number. The second thing I was interested in was the scheduling staffing that I think we probably ask the question every year, and we understand it for the 15 minutes that we're sitting in the meeting here. But with the new hirings here, there will be the 6 person shifts, the rotating 24-hour shifts, and the so-called magic 1-2-1-4 system, which means that the firefighters average 42-hour work week. It means that you're on duty for 24 hours, you're off for 48 hours, you're back on duty for 24 hours, and you're off for 96 hours. So over the year, that average is 42 hours. Did I say that correctly, Mark?
Absolutely.
Thank you. The next thing I looked at, and this is more that I'm just trying to set the stage, that I'm just really stating the facts. The FY 25 budget is 5% above the FY 24 budget. The FY 24 budget was 19% above the FY 23 actuals. Of course, the driving factor here is the hiring of 4 additional people, 4 of them for just half of last fiscal year, or really this current fiscal year, so that in FY 24, and the 4 of them for the full 25 year. So Mark, and I think I've seen the numbers floating around, that I estimate that those 4 additional firefighters on a full year basis cost us somewhere around $450,000.
Are you including benefits?
Not really, no.
Because it would be about 37, I think, %. We usually go above for benefits.
Yeah, okay, but the 400, is
Right,
that what,
that's
about
a-
what would be in
that's
your
around-
budget?
Around figure, yeah, total.
In your budget, 400, 450, thereabouts. So, you know, that's, and then also to point out that the FY 25 budget is 25% above the FY 23 actuals. And the only reason I'm pointing out these numbers is that, you know, for the public, for us to all understand that we are seeing these kinds of increases year over year over year. And the one thing I'd like to emphasize is that when we talk about these kind of percentage increases, we're very fortunate that they haven't flowed down to the average resident, because we've had enough growth in this town over the last 5 years with places like the apartment complex, with Amazon, with the marijuana, with who's ever up on the other end of town, UPS. Those types of projects are what allow this town to have these kind of increases in operating budgets without really forcing the higher and higher taxes on the average real estate thing. So that's what, to me, again, I emphasize over and over again, and I feel like I'm shoveling it against the tide, is that we need to continue having this development. And we can't, I don't know how we stop it, but we can't continue to have people, small groups of people, fighting every single development we try to do. And I don't care if it's a residential development, if it's a new building on Main Street, if it's a commercial project out in the woods somewhere. We always seem to have groups that don't want that to happen. And I think it involves all of us in government to make sure that we're working the best we can to convince people that some of these projects are good. Some of these things we need to do, either that or we're going to see real estate taxes continue to get out of control. My next item was, I asked why, what is the 10K for wage and personnel salary for? And that's for the call firefighters. It was reduced from 15 to 10 with the hope that having additional personnel will have less requirements for that. The holiday sick overtime recall training amounts. I note that the budget for 25 for that is 776K combined. For 24, it was 884K. For 23, the actual was 757K. So to me, the important thing to note there is that it would look to me that the chief has concertedly tried to reduce the budget in that area to recognize the hiring of 4 new people ought to, you know, perhaps require less overtime, less recall, less holiday coverage, those types of things. Any comment on that one, Mark?
No, that entire question 6, is kind of a all encompassing over the whole budget. So what we did is we've tried diligently to reduce where we can reduce, staff appropriately. And keep in mind also your newer employees have less time. Over time, you'll see some increases in that area. But again, I've got a very senior group of people. So over the next few years, as some of those retire, we hire in some younger folks. It'll probably, I don't want to say stagnant, that's a bad word. It will say either stable or go down a little bit. That's my expectation. One of the things that, if you look to question 5, I'm sorry, with regards to reducing the call force time, if you will, we will, with additional firefighters, be recalling people less. And as you move further through the budget, you'll see that recall was also reduced. That's a conversation Keith and I had, and it's appropriate to do that because that's the purpose of having the additional staff, is to cover calls and not have to recall people. Recall in general is not particularly successful. We've got a lot of folks that are willing to come back, but the challenge with that is they live at distances. Middleborough, South Plymouth, whatever that might be. And for a second call, it's not 1986 anymore. So they're not all living in town a mile away from the fire station. It's just the reality that we face. So the additional staff hopefully can cover the larger portion of the calls and require less recall.
My next couple of items, I just commented on the fact that the run rate for certain items are running about 45% through 6 months. I consider that insignificant difference than 50%. If it was running at 35%, then I want to know, what's going on. But when it's at 45%, it's probably not unreasonable to think that some of this is timing, and you get into the fiscal year and things can happen.
Can I make one quick comment on that one?
Sure.
One of the challenges, and I think that you're very accurate to some degree, but one of the challenges we're all facing right now is that we're ordering things and it takes an extended period of time to get them delivered. So that 45% normally at this time of year probably would be 60-ish. Just looking at some figures this afternoon. But again, you've got such delays in ordering things. You hope they come in within the fiscal that you actually order them.
And the other thing I'm looking at, December 23rd, I think it was, numbers, so that we're 6 weeks beyond that now anyhow. I asked how come there's no longevity budget. I didn't realize that was moved to the union salaries.
Yep.
So
That was, I believe, Carol and Jen, I think, worked that out. They moved it up because longevity should be pensionable and it was easier to take it out of that line, more appropriate. That was my recollection of that one.
do you know if it's been pensionable in the past?
Honestly, I can't remember.
Okay, because what your response there, I thought to myself, well, here's another area where
No,
we're spending more money.
I don't, I
Right.
think it was, Carl. I think it's just, it was moved because that's a better place to take it out of. Carol might be able to comment.
It's
a little
easier
bit.
to calculate and get at it. Correct, Carol?
Yeah, it was, it was just easier to comprise everything together into the one union line.
It's like town meeting, when we combine 8 questions all at once, we can move through them a lot faster.
Yeah,
I tried doing that with your email and it wasn't so successful.
Ambulance billing service, I guess that's just a case of the invoices catching up to the actuals.
Correct.
From what I can see there. Ambulance and firefighter supplies. You said that, ARPA and CARES Act funding had provided quite a bit of that, so we may be running a little bit behind there. I actually, thank you, Carol. We have a lot of analysis here on the CARES Act and the ARPA funding. And I will say that the fire department has benefited, I think close to $750K over the last 3 or 4 years from that. And of course, 350 of it was an ambulance. So that's a little bit misleading.
380, yep.
Yeah, 380, yeah. Speaking of ambulances, do we really only have 3 ambulances now that we traded in the old one or? got
The
rid
old
of it?
ones are all gone. Yep.
Okay. And I commented on the expenditures for firefighting clothing and gear seeming to run light. And Mark said that much of the gear has just been delivered and he's got a lot more on order. So that those are my questions and my follow-up on the firefighting budget. With that, I'll open it up to the
I think
floor.
you had two more from that follow-up email.
Maybe I didn't like your answers.
Okay. No, I think you were okay with it because one said you were right, so that would be great.
What are you specifically referring to?
The one, the FinCom member that asked, what did we get from CARES and ARPA?
That's the reports that
Carol.
Carol
Oh,
sent us.
okay, because I
Yeah.
listed specifics.
Yep.
And the first one was the work schedule, which we covered.
I'll jump in since it's quiet.
Okay,
Contract salaries, from FY 22 to now, it's doubled. It's gone from 151, 899 to 303, 852. What's in that? What does those contract services salaries?
Salaries would be fire contract or
It says
You-
contract salaries.
It's
It
the police chief.
Fire chief.
And deputy.
is both of them.
what's the two?
I can answer that, Elaine, if you'd like.
sure.
Um,
Sure.
The deputy chief used to be in wage and personnel.
Okay.
Now he's contract.
Okay. In fire union, that's increased about 605,000, and it sounds like 450 of that is the new firefighters.
Plus contract, yeah, plus all the contract allowances from last.
Okay.
That's pretty well.
And looking at 1214, if I do my math right, it's one is 24 hours on, two is 48 hours on, 24 hours, off, 24 hours on, and then four, you've got 96. So in a 10 days period, they work 4 days out of and have 6 days off.
So I'd have to, every time we do this, I have to write it out.
Yeah.
So a week and it rotates 1 day a week forward. So you work 2 24s a week and it's averaged over
8 weeks.
8 weeks.
But if I just take if just based on these numbers,
Mhm.
that's on 10 days. It's 10 days and
So if that totals 10 days and they work 2
They work
24s, then yeah.
yeah, so they work 4 out and they have 6 days off. Okay. That's it.
The difference being that they are working 24 hours at a time, right?
I just made the statement,
I hear you.
that's all.
Mike, do you have any questions?
I just have one question. So you had requested 111,000 for recall and then it changed to 61,000.
Yeah, Keith and I talked about that and it made sense to reduce it based on additional staffing. Keith stole Carl's management challenge from under him.
And where, if I remember correctly, Carol, we have $1 million in revenue for ambulance fees. I know I could look it up.
1,460,000.
No, what's in the budget for it?
That's been the
66,000 is in next year's budget to pay the 4%.
1.2 I have for revenue.
1.2 million.
Gotcha.
Okay, and we're running at that level pretty well, Carol?
I can't answer that right now. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
We
Carl.
did increase.
Mark,
We did increase fees during the fiscal 24 season too. Charges.
right. One of the things that I always do here for the fire department is that I like to emphasize that even though we're looking at a budget here of $3,950,000, if you subtract, let's call it $1,450,000 from it, it's really costing the town 2.5 million. So that, the first time I looked at 4 million, I said, oh my God. But the fact that we're getting the revenue for the ambulance is going to the general fund really does make this picture look better, I believe. And capital, Mark, what are we doing for capital?
This year,
Yes.
this is pretty much nothing. It's just lease payments on, I don't mean to say that's nothing, lease payments on existing.
And you're getting another brush truck?
That was ordered last year.
Yeah.
It's like just to be clear, it's replacing the restaurant.
Right. Replacing the 2001.
Okay. As long as we don't get a second one. I'm
We
not,
have a set, we have to.
I know we have two, but I'm not in favor of a second brand new one. That,
No, I don't know.
I believe that brush trucks are something we ought to be sharing with other towns. Not spending too much money on them.
Was it talk of getting a new boat?
So we got 2 new inflatable boats with a boat trailer last year on the state equipment grant to replace the 1986 Boston Whaler and trailer. We asked for a little money last year at town meeting to match the grant funds, and those came in several months ago, and those are in service.
So what's the protocol for the use of the boat?
Any call for a water rescue boat, the boat trailer, depending if it's a pond or if it's the ocean, the boat trailer with the appropriate response from station 1 will go, station 2 will go with the ambulance. And they have 2 survival suits on the ambulance that they keep with them at all times.
So when the harbor master gets called, you go out as well?
Yeah, usually it's a 911 call and they'll dispatch us and the harbor master.
Okay.
Yep.
Jason, do you have anything else?
Just on turnout gear, how many sets of turnout gear are full-time?
2 sets each, and we rotate them by 5 years. That, like the 10-year, and every
Replacement.
5 years they get one. One thing we're trying to do, I'm glad I only brought that up with the boat. If you see it in the cap plan, we push it down the road a little bit. The big boat we had gotten from the Coast Guard, that was the surplus boat. We keep pushing it out because I've had conversations with Tyler about the boat ramp and if it's ever going to be dredged and stuff like that. So we're really trying to assess the need, number one, for that boat. And if we do still need a big boat, what type of boat? So we keep pushing that out until that project is either bid out, scheduled to be done or done.
Okay.
He was kind enough, he just sent us over the engineering drawings for the ramp just to try to get on it.
Anybody have anything else? One thing I should say is that we've been pretty much approving the budgets as they come by us here. Or I don't like using the word approving. We have been recommending to town meeting approval of the budgets as they come by us. But we're also reserving the fact that once we have the school budgets in place, if we have an overall increase, bottom line budget, town budget, including schools, that we think is out of line, we may be going back and saying, okay, we're going to recommend either a percentage across the board reduction. If the schools came in way higher, we might be recommending or refusing to recommend the schools budget as they come in. One of our objectives is to get to the point where the overall town departments, including schools, are pretty much equal. So that if the town departments excluding schools are 4% and the schools are 4%, we'll be relatively happy. If the schools are at 3% and the towns are at 4%, we may want to talk some more. If the schools are at 6% and the towns, other departments are at 4%, we may want to talk some more. So that's kind of,
Increase the budget to 6%, don't you tell me?
we might.
If the ceiling comes down, Carl.
All right, so with that said, I have a motion concerning this budget.
I will move the finance committee recommend favorable action on the fire department budget for fiscal 25. Personal services in the amount of $3,452,030. Other expenditures in the amount of $497,983 for a total budget of $3,950,013.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? 400 recommend approval.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Would you be willing to break the harbor master and then, animal control, prior to the police budget, just so that they want to leave it in there?
Yes, that would have been our plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next one we'll do is the animal control budget.
I brought snacks.
Yes.
No, I am not. Did anybody like?
I'll take it.
Yes. How are you?
How are you?
All right, the. Yeah.
Can't go
Yeah.
Sure. Hopefully they're not melting. They overdo it. You pass it down.
My first comment on the animal control budget is that the department is made up of the animal control officer. Hello, good to see you again.
Too.
And an assistant.
Correct.
I wanted to verify the hours, and I understand that the animal control officer is 56 hours every 2 weeks,
Correct.
28 hours per week. The assistant is 26 hours per week, 52 for 2 weeks.
Correct.
Seems to me that we authorized that last year or the year before
Yeah.
or something. Now, so both of these positions are now benefit eligible.
They've always been benefit eligible. It's just now, it's the hours that I'm.
Okay, so
concerned
they were
with.
always both over 19
Yeah,
hours?
correct. They started at 20 hours and then over the years, that you gave us 2 hours here, 2 hours here, 2 hours there. The bottom line is that we have grown so much, the town, our department has grown so much in as far as responsibilities and duties and things that we're almost out of money right now for this year for off-duty response hours and for coverage and things like that. So we're on call 24/7, 365, morning, noons, nights, holidays, weekends. We're only scheduled to work 28 hours, during the day, during the week time, which is, it's
Difficult.
it's very difficult. The assistant animal control officer, we job share, so I work Monday through Thursday, Monday through Wednesday, 8:30 to 4:30, and then half a day on Thursdays. She comes in on Thursday so that she and I can sit together and meet and talk about, what's happened during the week and then what's going to happen, for the rest of the week, give her duties and so forth. But it's becoming more and more difficult to work under that time restraint of 28 hours. Like last week, we had two dangerous, we had dangerous dog hearings. I worked a 14-hour day. She worked a 14-hour day. And it's just because it's all, the town is growing. There's more animal issues. I just feel it's unfair that, I've been here 16 years. And I'm still at 28 hours a week. I'm considered a department head or a senior person, and other departments who have department heads or senior people, they're all 30, 32 hours, 35 hours a week. So I would like to request additional, I don't know if it'd be this year, if you can think about it for next year, to increase the hours of the
Again,
people.
to me, that's something you have to work with your management and the town administration
Okay.
manager.
Okay,
That we only try to pass judgment on what comes before us.
okay,
So, but I certainly can understand that. One of the things that I think I'd be interested in doing if I was running the police department, I'd bury this whole department within the police department. So that the $125,000 or whatever it might be would just be part of the regular police department budget. But I probably can't say things like that, so.
We didn't hear it.
I didn't hear anything.
So that was just, my comments on.
No, I
on the
understand
salaries,
fully.
Issue. The only couple of things that I did on the vehicle repair and maintenance, line 52245. It was last year, it was decreased from 4,000 to 2,000. Animal control has not had a new vehicle since 2005. Every vehicle that we've had since has always been a hand-me-down from the Kingston and from the police department with lots of wear and tear. I mean, to things that go wrong, they're not cheap to fix. So with the decrease of $2,000 that we had last year, we had to tap into the police department's budget to cover the deficit to get the animal control vehicles back up working and running. This year with the $2,000, we're already $909 in the negative. And that doesn't include, I have a new bill for work that has to be done to bring it up. It's not even going to pass inspection. There's $1,017 bill here that has to be, the shocks and the struts need to be replaced. A couple of other little miscellaneous things, but I can't, the inspection sticker expires at the end of this month. And I don't have the money to get this fixed in order to make the vehicle
Again, to
safe.
me,
Can I just? I don't mean to be rude. I apologize. I think we're here tonight to review the budget that's been presented by the police chief. To the FinCom. We're not here to
Okay.
we're not here to debate or
Okay.
request additional funds that the department head didn't feel was appropriate. So I would just ask that you answer the questions the FinCom has, but not ask for
Sure.
additional funds.
Absolutely.
That's not what this group is here for. Thank you.
okay, with that, when I'm reviewing a budget of $114,000 like this, there's not a lot of detail I want to go into or a lot of detailed information. I only try to make points. I want to note that the 25 budget of 114K is 27K higher than the FY22 actuals. So that means that over a 3-year period, we've had an annual compounded rate increase of 9.3%. So that it says that, we are trying, or the town is trying to fund this function a little bit better each year. So that there is some headway being made. I recognize that when it's 9% and it's such a small department balance of 114 to begin with, it's immaterial, but just tried to make that point. The FY25 budget in total is a 7K increase over FY24. And I'm assuming that that's the wage and personnel salary increases. But again, I want to point out for just general purposes that that's 6.3%. And again, we talk about Proposition 2.5. We talk about wage increases of 3 and 3.5%, but somehow we managed to get a lot of bottom line increases of 5-6%.
Right, and if I could just touch base briefly on that includes step increases. We've had turnover with the assistant animal control position. We lost the one girl that we had for 3 years because she was offered a position full-time in Plymouth, which started out at astronomically amount more money than Kingston was offering. She stayed, she left. We took us 6 months, almost 8 months to find a replacement. We found a replacement. We had to fight tooth and nail for a $1 increase to keep, so we wouldn't have to keep going through this again. She only stayed a year. Now, this past year, I went through the exact same thing, knock on wood. I was able to negotiate to have that individual started a higher step step increase so that we could retain somebody in that position. But if you look at the salaries with those positions, they're extremely far below what positions over here in the town clerk's office, administrative assistants make. And the the responsibilities and duties of the animal control officer are far more, intricate and more detailed, and there's more risk involved, there's more,
Well,
liability
again,
involved, and I get that.
I-
I'm just, my concern is, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, is that I was not even involved in the 25 budget. I was excluded, so this is my only opportunity to be able to express, concerns.
I
And
hear
our
you.
department is just being,
And again, I would
You know.
suggest that you work with the police department, with Laura, with whoever
okay,
on, well, hear me through, on, wage and personnel department coming up with higher levels if that's
Okay.
what is required.
okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
My last item here was about the vehicle, and I think you've already, said the vehicle, and I'm sure that the next time a police one is traded in that's better than what you have, you're gonna end up with that. Correct, Laura?
Yes, we are, because of, like Mark had mentioned, we're still having supply chain issues. So right now, currently, we have 4 police cruisers on order, but they can't be, they're sitting on the lot at Ford, but they can't release them because it has a recall. And it's not even a safety recall. So we have one was being. I think
We have
it's
one
almost-
we don't even want to bring down there because they'll keep it.
They'll
Yeah,
keep
they're
it, right.
small.
That's small. So as soon as the back order of the recall part, whatever it may be, because they didn't tell us, as soon as those are available, they're gonna retrofit. Now you're gonna get a better cruiser, actually. This makes it, you're getting one with less miles on it now because of this happened.
Let's,
So as soon as that, we were
And-
hoping.
since 2019, we were originally supposed to get a new vehicle in 2019, and now it's 6 years later. And the animal control department, we just, again, with no disrespect to the police department, we keep getting these hand-me-down vehicles, and they're constantly breaking down, they're constantly unsafe, they're constantly, and it's just, okay, when is it gonna be? Since 2005, we haven't had a new vehicle, so when is it going to be our turn to get a vehicle that's retrofitted for our use, not because we get them and they're not retrofitted for what animal control does. It's a old police vehicle, and we have to make do with that. And again, we're grateful and we appreciate it, but it's not conducive to what we do on a daily basis. We have no input on what, the creation of the reconstruction of the vehicle that comes down to us. That's all I'm just.
We kind of Mickey Moused it. We went to Lowe's and bought containers to store her
Yeah, I
catching
mean,
holes.
it's-
and-
Maybe a business plan to the new police chief will.
Okay, sounds good to me.
And how about the facility over there? Do you get, support from our
We
facilities
do, we
department?
get
Do you
one,
need-
the police department is wonderful for us. The police department, the facilities, all the departments are wonderful. They support us, very much, Board of Health. All the departments that we interact with, the fire department, they're wonderful. We have no issues with that at all. We try to accommodate everybody the best that we can with this
Okay,
tiny amount of staff that we have.
excellent. That's all I have. Mike, Elaine,
I'm
Jason?
fine with it. I mean, it's a small budget and
All right, can I have a motion, please?
I will move approval of the animal control budget, or recommend that the finance committee recommend approval of the animal control budget. Fiscal 25, personal services in the amount of $105,426. Other expenses, $8,445 for a total budget of $113,871.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 400 recommended. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Now we will do the harbor master's budget, which is a very similar situation.
and just for appearances, I'm going to recuse myself because I do some senior work off over there.
Oh, is that, do I just abstain from the vote?
Let's,
I
yeah,
would think it might be better if you just abstain. I'm a
Okay.
little concerned that we
Okay,
can do it without a quorum or lack thereof.
then I'll just abstain.
All right.
I will sit in and listen.
The harbor master budget is $112,457 in total. If I can find the page here, I asked for a breakout of the staff here. Yeah, we have a harbor master who he basically gets paid for a half a year, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, we have a harbor master being paid for half a year. We have a deputy harbor master. see, is it, how's he paid? Is that
They're
civil?
At the,
Happy year.
Happy year too, okay. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 assistant harbor masters who were paid a stipend of $3,922 each. Shellfish constable, $7,000, and the clerical assistant Sylvia, and you're half a year too, Sylvia, or are you year?
no, I
round?
work all year.
You work year round, okay? So that, that makes up basically the $86,580 of labor salaries, including $3,000 budgeted as overtime. I think it's reasonable. They look like they're spending $2,500 one year, $1,900 another, $1,500. So they do need some overtime, and I assume that's probably mostly you.
The overtime, no, I don't get overtime. The overtime is for the harbor master and the deputy harbor master. The others are stipend, they don't get it.
And when you have to, doesn't somebody from highway helps at the beginning and the closing of the year?
Right.
Remove the dots. So I also pay a borrowed employee from the highway department that comes with the excavator. That helps you
Comes
with
with a
some type of machine.
forklift.
That's it, forklift.
And I will point out that the budget of $112,457 is actually about $1,300 less than the FY24 budget. I asked the status of the boat ramp project, and I think, Keith, you said that it's been, the purchase order has been issued. Is that you or?
Yeah,
Carol?
so the boat ramp project, is being funded by both, TPC funds and also a state grant that was able to be obtained. We went out to bid, we've awarded the bid, to a contractor. There's been a couple of modifications to the ramp. They've been back to the Conservation Commission and received approval of the modifications to the ramp. The expectation is that the construction will start on or around March 1st. It'll be completed sometime in the beginning of May.
Okay. And it looks like the Waterways Fund has a balance of $108,900. So I'm sure that they'll be looking for some of that money to do some kind of an additional project over there. That's basically all I have on Harbor Master. Does Mike or Jason have any?
I was just curious how much comes in, like, if you had an idea on the revenue from, moorings and things like that.
It runs around 40 some odd thousand a year.
I was just gonna say, I remember a number of $45,000.
Yeah, right in that range.
And in the ramp project, does that include, are they gonna be dredging in front of the ramp or are they just?
No,
No, they're just scraping it. They're just gonna scrape it.
Yeah, there might be some minor modifications to the base of the ramp, but nothing significant. But the ramp, not to get too involved, but the angle of the ramp, I think, will be less severe than what it is now. If that makes sense.
And the parking lot's coming up. Well, we have to still go.
At
to
some
parking
point,
lot.
yes, at some point.
February 25th.
Okay, Mike, do you have anything?
I have a question on the reduction of the vehicle repairs. I thought it was originally going to be $1,250 or rather $1,500. And now it's $250 for the vehicle.
It looks like the town administration must have determined to keep it at the rate it's been running. And again, here's something else I probably shouldn't say, but when a vehicle has to be repaired, it gets repaired, and then we figure out how it's going to get paid for.
Well, it comes out of other line items.
Other line
like
items,
did.
or the police department, or at the end of the year, we work with the town accountant to transfer funds between accounts, et cetera.
The vehicle is a 2016 and we've already spent for this year, $3,313. And it needed shocks, brakes, replacement of a couple of things, and we know now it's gonna probably need tires, but we'll kind of wait until after the 1st of July. To go in the next fiscal year, and $250 doesn't even cover one tire.
So maybe next year, only buy one police vehicle and buy a new vehicle for the,
We'll take the tires,
Tires
we'll take the tires off the old one, there you go.
You got 150 grand in the fund.
that's true too. That's true too. All right.
But that's.
I will move the finance committee recommend approval of the fiscal 25 harbor master budget. Personal services in the amount of $86,580. Other expenses, $25,877. Overall budget, $112,457.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
301 recommending approval. And next, we'll do the police department.
Oh. I'm talking about the grant doing lots of.
Whatever it takes, scare people.
He is on me today. What is up with him? Is everybody witnessing this?
It's on tape.
What?
It's on tape.
It's on board, yeah. What is? What to me?
So.
He has been a bully.
Bully?
Yes, you're being a bully to me. It's making me uncomfortable. No.
Yeah, I'm just trying.
All right, the police department budget. The first thing I always like to do is look at the head count.
Yeah.
And Laura was good enough to provide me with an update here, which shows that we have one administrator, Laura. We have an acting chief. We're going to have a chief, so I count that as one person. We have 2 lieutenants. We have 6 sergeants and 16 patrolmen for a total of 25 police, excluding Laura, and 7 dispatchers. The 25 police, Laura or Tom, do we have one opening right now?
The opening we have is for the chief. When we do get a chief on board, we'll have another opening in May. That'll be gone.
Okay, okay. So I still have,
For the FY 25, I did put it in to have to keep the 25 bodies. So I do have an opening for patrols. I took Tommy out and it's gonna reflect a new chief that is in there. Tommy's not in that figure for FY 25.
and if Mo was still here, we would have 3 lieutenants instead of 2
Yes.
lieutenants. That's where I was getting lost. Okay. Okay. So I understand. So the thing that I think is worth pointing out here, that we've had this same head count for police. Certainly the 10 years that I've been involved, I don't think there's been one addition while I've been involved. And the 7 dispatchers, I think it's about maybe that's one more dispatcher than we had at one
Well, when
time.
we had to do cuts in 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to reduce. So we went down to the 6 dispatches.
I didn't know you were old enough to be around that long.
I've been here over
See how I
17 and a
make-
half years. Shh, don't tell anybody. Yeah, so we went down to the 6 dispatches and created a new shift where there was one dispatcher that would come in 11 to 8. So then we had a dispatcher that was by themselves every morning and guess who was sitting up front answering the phone
Oh.
with my laptop? Some of the worst incidents happened when there was only one dispatcher on the desk, and I will never recommend that again. That was a tough, like when we had the car accident up at the high school, when they hit the bus. Person that was in the train.
2 arm and overnight.
No, we only
One.
have one.
Okay, the next item is again where I'm just stating a fact to have it on the table. The FY 25 total budget of $4,550,000 is an increase of $1,070,000 over the FY 21 actuals. So that represents a compounded annual rate increase of 7% over the 4-year period. So what that really says is between union salary, step increases, contracts for the chief, et cetera, that we're averaging a 7% increase in the police department. Because we don't have any body increases. So that, I just think that's something to, when, we look to see how much the town is supporting various departments. I think that that's an indication that even though we don't hire people, hire additional officers, we are supporting the department financially. The increase of FY 25 over the FY 24 budget is $231,000 or 5.3%. Again, this is driven by the union negotiated salary and step increases. The way the labor accounts are running right now, this is just my rough guesstimate. I would think that you may be coming in with an underrun for the year of order of magnitude of $200,000. And that would be nice if you did.
No.
We'll always take $200K back, but you don't think we're going to.
Well, we have, some upcoming training,
Okay.
that's mandatory.
Yeah.
We have the TASER training, firearms training, and CPR, that's mandatory. We're not fully deployed for training with the body worn cameras. So, there's gonna be a significant amount of money expended for the training.
The last 6 months.
Yeah, it's not like you didn't see it all through the first part of the season
Well,
now.
My note to myself here is timing of training,
Yes.
timing of expenditures.
People have to use up their vacation time.
Yeah, that will start in May.
I just want to make a note that it would appear, based upon some preliminary numbers that have been put in this budget, that will pay upwards of $25,000 more for the new police chief than the current police chief. And I'm sure that the town administration and the police hiring experts or the selectmen or whoever will tell me that, yeah, it's to be competitive, that's what you have to pay for these jobs nowadays, but I just point that out. Keith, do you have any comment on my comment? Okay.
Thank you.
The career incentive seems to be going up. We're budgeting a 24% increase to $265K. Now, I think what Laura was telling me that is more of the officers are getting their degrees.
Mhm.
I think it's tough for anybody, even a conservative financial guy, to argue against having people get degrees and helping to pay for them. The other thing, I mention this every year, and I don't think we're one of the things we're trying to do this year is not nickel and dime you on every single expense account. Because one of the things that I have pointed out year after year is that this department is so salary, labor oriented that 90% of the dollars, probably closer to 95%, are in the salary labor lines. So that I will give you credit that you've held the other expenses to about $200K for 5 years now.
Yeah.
So that I think you do a great job there. And at the same time, I've said it before, I don't want to be paying $4 million for salaries for police officers and then not supporting them properly by not spending more money on, I don't know, ammunition or supplies or whatever. But again, I compliment you on being able to run a department consistently for the $200,000. Well, we're gonna be up to 225. But, you know, the budget for last year was 224. The actuals of the year before were 217, so we are pretty consistent.
I know we had to turn back because some of, again, supply chain issues. We ordered items in May. They were promised they were gonna get delivered and they did not arrive before June 30th. So unfortunately, it had to go into the next fiscal year.
And capital equipment requests, I'm sure you're requesting 2 new police vehicles. That's kind of standard.
Yeah.
Did you end up getting 2 last year or?
We only received one. We're
Yes.
still waiting.
We're still
Still
waiting.
waiting.
But 2 were approved.
Yes.
Because at one time, I think we were talking about, somebody was talking about reducing it to 1 and we said, hey, we thought we had.
That happened one year at town
Yeah.
meeting
That
on
is
the floor.
bad precedence
That was a few years.
years ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, my years are off. I thought they had 2 police cruisers in the truck last year.
That is correct.
Okay, so. And
And just an
Just like-
FYI for capital, what, are they going up 12 to 15,000?
Police are done.
The cruises are going up 12 to 15,000. But moment I finish the paperwork quick to get the next set already contract and so we can lock into the contract.
that doesn't surprise me because I've always said that I never paid more than 85% of asking price for a new vehicle. Nowadays, you don't get any 15% discount. So it's a fact of life.
Just so FinCom's aware, the police department applied for and received a $50,000 grant towards the acquisition of body worn cameras. The remaining funding for that was purchased through ARPA monies. Lieutenant Kelly, Acting Chief Kelly, mentioned it a little bit earlier. The sergeants are now wearing the body worn
Body
cameras.
cams, yeah.
There'll be some additional training for the patrolmen. But the patrolmen at some point in the fairly near future will be wearing the body worn cameras as well, the patrolmen.
No,
At some point.
yeah, there's a couple, but everybody be fully deployed by the end of the month.
So, it was done without tax money and it was the premise for wanting to have the body worn cameras really is for protection of the police officers. They oftentimes run into situations that are where they're being accused of acting inappropriately, things of that nature. With the body worn cameras, what we're finding through some of the homework we did prior to this discussion was a lot of the incidents that they may run into now, they won't in the future because people recognize they're wearing a camera. And it won't be a he said, she said situation anymore. We've got film to actually watch to see how the police officer performed and what the issue was. I give a lot of credit to the unions. We worked to add this language into the contracts. The unions and the former chief worked together to come up with policies and procedures to deploy these cameras, and the patrolmen and all of the union members, have stepped up and will be having these cameras on their body or on their person later on, probably in March. So it's great.
I think it's a great program. I'm glad to hear it. But I also feel obligated to point out what I always do when we finance something by grants. It's great the first time around,
Mhm.
but 3 years from now, when we need all new cameras,
Mhm.
you'll be before the finance committee.
No, we won't.
Or the capital, no?
We're good for 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see what that.
And I'll be gone.
No, that was the way that they put it out
I
there.
remember seeing the contract now that you mention it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's good. That's good.
Yeah, it helps the town. The studies have shown it's better transparency, less litigation due to complaints and stuff like that, more officer accountability, helps in investigations. So there's a lot of pluses for these. And once we get fully deployed, we're looking at maybe doing something out for the public, let them all know.
You mentioned litigation. I'm one that's, always very reluctant to even ask any question about litigation. But the one question I do feel comfortable about asking Is there anything out there that you feel could be a significant dollar impact to the town? And I guess I asked the town administrator that too. And I'm limiting it to the police department.
Sure, so we've had one long-term piece of litigation that's police-related. I think it's unclear at this point, what, if any, liability the town would have with what's pending out there now.
Fair enough,
An unknown.
fair enough. New police station, Keith was good enough to respond to that. I think it was Keith. I asked these questions of 3 different people, so then I forget. But my understanding is that we're still negotiating with Eversource to try to get some extra land up next to the fire station. And if we could ever get an agreement up there, then we might be ready to try to bring before town meeting a year from now or a year and a half from now, a plan to build a new police station up on that property.
Yes, sir.
So I think that's all we need to do now, that it's something that we don't have to worry about for this budget. We don't have to worry about debt financing involving this budget. We don't have to worry about anything at this town meeting this year. So it's something that we've talked about for the 10 years I've been around, and we'll probably talk about for another 5 to 10 years. I think that's all I have. Elaine,
My questions have been answered.
Mike,
Motion time?
see, on this one, I will point out that, sometimes Mark thinks I'm the fire department guy or something. But they have a budget of $4,550,000, and what they bring in is fees, et cetera, does not nearly come to the $1 million plus that reduce that. But in any case, we're very fortunate in this town to have a great fire department and a great police department. And the fact that it costs us $9 million, I think is a reasonable approach. And I think, as you all know, I've said it before, government needs to take care of schools and fire and police. And last week I gave Mr. Basler the roads. He said we need to take care of roads too. Everything else is extraneous.
Then I'll move that the finance committee recommends.
Excuse me, we got a revised budget with the contract salary of $197,789.
Cool. All right, I'm going to actually recommend finance committee finance committee suggest approval of the fiscal 25 police budget, personal services, $4,325,469. Other expenses, $224,900. Total budget, $4,550,369.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, recommend approval 4-0-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the same thing applies to you that you heard me give my spiel to Mark about recommending this budget pending final numbers for the total count.
When does the, one of the schools numbers back again?
The day before town meeting.
Meeting? Give me a heart attack.
Thank you, Lord. Nice job.
I don't know if I want to.
You don't say thank you.
It's just done. Not sure of a personal spirit today. I'm gonna stay now just to bother him.
You did, thank
That's the
you.
way to-
You're so good. I ate one for you. I ate one for you.
I ate a handful for you.
You can read. Oh, you gotta read your stuff.
All right, the next budget that we'll look at is the selectmen's budget here. I sent a list of a half a dozen questions to the town administrator and the finance director. They came back to me here. I pointed out that the FY 25 budget has increased from 450K of actuals in 22 to a budgeted amount of 493 for FY 25. This comes out to a compounded annual rate increase of 3% over the 3 years. So it's the type of thing that this guy kind of likes to see, although you will see there are some specific reasons that they're able to do that. The you'll see that the salaries have changed a bit. The wage and personnel salaries has increased from a budget of 141 to a budget of 216. The contract salaries has decreased. The current budget includes an assistant town administrator on contract. That's going away, and there'll be a purchasing agent in the wage and personnel area. So that results in a savings of about $40,000. The wage and personnel salaries total budget of $216,000 represents 3 positions: the purchasing agent, the assistant to the town administrator, and an HRIT/selectman administrative assistant. The allowances and stipends of $9,000, $8,944 is a $3,000 potential bonus for the town administrator and a $5,743 stipend for the energy efficiency agent. And the expenses, the only item that I commented on was the consulting. The FY 24 budget includes $12,500 for consulting, and that amount is for the police search consultant, the police chief search consultant, and it hasn't been paid as of yet. So that's why it doesn't need to be in there as a budget item for FY 25. Keith, do you have any other comments on the selectmen budget?
I don't, happy to answer any questions, but I think they're covered pretty well.
Mike, Elaine, go ahead, Elaine.
Travel and meetings jumped up to 3,500 from 399 and 22. And then dues and memberships decreased. So just. So the decrease is good. I was just curious why.
Sorry.
Okay.
Some of the travel was just COVID bounce back, right? Yeah.
So travel and meetings stayed at 3,500 for fiscal 24.
Yeah. I wasn't here in 24, so that's why I'm asking.
No, so 22 actual, I can't
Okay.
frankly speak to.
Okay, then dues and memberships decreased, which is a good thing. Just curious what. Again, I'm looking at 22s.
Understood. I can get that information for you. I'm not sure.
No, it's not that.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to get it. I just don't know.
That's
Off
okay.
the top of my head, I apologize.
No problem.
Just tell her reclassification.
Oh, then I dig even more. You know that. Okay, that's all I wanted. Just more curious than anything else.
Anybody else have anything?
We should know the answer to this, but the $12,500 line item for consulting last year that we haven't,
That's the one I just mentioned. It's for the search for the police chief.
that's right. Okay. All right, I'll move approval of the fiscal 25 budget for the selectmen, or recommended approval. Personal services, 411,895. Other expenses, 81,500, total budget, $493,395.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. 400 recommending approval. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, sir.
Getting better and better.
That takes care, that takes care of our budget reviews for tonight. I believe, we got the minutes for the January 24th meeting. I didn't have time to look at them in too much detail, so we'll take 5 minutes to take a quick look at them.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you, Laura, again.
Especially for the candy.
Yes,
Yeah.
I feel bad. Well, now I feel bad because Mary McKinnon, remember I gave you lifesavers? I hope we got enough for Carl and I the last time. So I'm like, I gotta make up and bring some treats. My favorite color, not the- Bye, Carol.
Hey, Laura.
Your hair's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Miss you, miss you. Oh, no, welcome.
I'm comfortable with this.
Looks
Yeah.
good to me. Rhonda, the only thing I'd ask on this, could you just forward it to Carol and make sure that the numbers for the, budget approvals or recommendations agree with what she has?
We'll hold.
No, we'll approve it as is, subject to any change that I don't think there will be any. Just want to double check.
Yeah.
Carol.
All right, I'll move the finance committee approve its minutes of the January 24th, 2024 meeting, subject to verification with the town accountant of amounts mentioned as recommendations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Minutes approved. The next item I'd like to do is any public comments, since I skipped over it before we started. Anybody from the public, this is one good way to handle public comments. Make sure that they leave the room before you ask if there are any public comments. Seeing none, finance committee members, you have an opportunity that it seems to me I've done 75% of the talking. Now it's your chance if you have any comments, thoughts, concerns, whatever. Mike,
I'm happy for right now.
okay,
Nothing to add.
Jason?
Okay.
All right, well, I thank you all for attending, our next meeting is 2 weeks from tonight, March 6th. I think we have, several departments again, but I don't think we have any real heavyweight departments. So I think that we're moving these meetings along in pretty good fashion. Time is it? 7:15. Wow. We are moving them along.
Yes, you are.
All right, so with that, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Move the finance committee adjourn its February 21st, 2024 meeting at 7:14 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.